Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another Tuesday discussion. Here on Tuesdays, we do like to reply to questions and comments we're getting either on YouTube, Instagram, or from our wonderful Patreon community through this type of video content. And today's question was all about fill your own bottle experiences. What are the different types out there? What have we done? And would we ultimately recommend that you do them? So if you are planning a bourbon trip, to Kentucky, this might be some useful information to you, but there are other types of fill your own bottle experiences all around the country, and I'll be highlighting those as well. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. Well, for the fill your own bottle experiences. Now, I think somebody has that misperception sometimes that the fill your own bottle experiences are just you thieving out of a barrel or filling it up from a single barrel. But there are different types of fill your own bottle experiences. And I'm trying to go summarize that essentially into three different types. First, yes, you can fill a bottle from a single barrel. That is probably the most common experience. You're going to see that one at Michter's, as an example. If you go into Louisville, Kentucky, and you go to Michter's, which we'll talk about more at the middle of this video, that would be walking up there and you are just filling it to whatever single barrel they currently chose. And you don't even know if it's rye or bourbon walking into that experience, which makes it interesting. Another type of fill your own experience is a blend, either filling it with their blend or filling it with your own blend. So in the case of Elijah Craig, if you do I believe it's called the Do You Bourbon experience, on that one, they blended micro batches essentially just for that experience of Elijah Craig, of Larceny, of Bernheim, and they usually have a select stock as well. And in that case, you're talking about a blend of, let's say, 8 barrels, a mini blend of Elijah Craig barrel proof. And that's something that you can fill your own bottle with. And then once that blend is gone, they sell out of it, they go in and they make a new blend for that experience. So every 2 to 3 months, there's a new blend probably in those machines that they're pumping out into those bottles. Now, when it comes to making your own blend, there are some unique companies all around the US that allow you to do that. One of them close by me is Wenzel Whiskey. In that case, they are getting barrel sourced from Louisiana, Kentucky, Indiana, various places, at least of the last time that I visited them. And you get to go and sit there and be a mad scientist, do the proportions, and then hand them the proportions, and then they will blend it for you and give you your own bottle. We have done that a few times now. Darrell and I have blended some bottles too to compare our blends against each other. It is always a fun time to blend your own thing because it's pretty unique to you. I suppose other people could come up with the exact same proportions by just sheer coincidence, but for the most part, you're creating something unique and buying it yourself. Other brands that I know do that, Kelsey had a good time at J. Mattingly. And as another example of one that I know is local to me, it's called Brain Brew. And I haven't done that one yet. But what they essentially do is finish, I believe, MGP or Indiana bourbons in various ways. And then you get to pick the proportions of those finished whiskeys to make your blend. So, just another example of the type of blending that you can do. And again, search for it. Search your state, search blending experience. I bet you'll find other locations beyond just being in Kentucky that are offering those type of experiences, and they are great for groups. So, one thing to keep in mind then that the prices do vary, and these experiences can be expensive or more expensive than the things that you typically get on the shelves. Let's take an example of the Michter's. So I've got the Michter's bourbon and the Michter's rye right here. So here is the bourbon that I filled myself. Lovely presentation. Got my handwriting on it, the stats, when I filled it, the proof. And then as you open it up, got more information there. And then a lot of these stickers I got to put on myself. Though the last time I went, they did speed up the process. So it wasn't just a blank bottle like the first time that I went. A lot of these were already preset, but did get to put my handwriting on that as well. So it's a personal bottle here, but to do this experience, it did cost $150. Now, essentially at Michter's, they do these essentially every day, maybe 10, maybe 20 20 people that they're going to sell 20 bottles. So you have to get there early and sign up and then figure out your time on when you need to come back to do this experience. But there are limited slots, and that is why you'll see a line outside of Michter's. When you're standing in line, though, and the doors haven't even opened yet, you have no idea if it's a rye, if it's a bourbon, how old it is. You know nothing. And even then, other than telling you that it's a rye or a bourbon, they don't give you too much information. Hey, they are Michter's after all. They don't always give you a lot of that information. Now, when it comes to the quality of the whiskey that's in there, with the Michter's for 150, you're doing it more for the experience than you're doing it for what's in the bottle. Both of these bottles, if you're familiar with our scoring system, I graded it somewhere between a 75 to a 79. I like the rye better than the bourbon. And even then, the rye wasn't anything beyond what I've had on other single barrel proof ryes from Michter's. So it wasn't like it was an elevated version of Michter's. It was just a single barrel that they highlighted that day, that week for the single barrel program, and they threw it into that machine. So you're doing it more so for the memories with friends than maybe you're doing it for the quality of the whiskey. You know, you're not just paying $150 for the whiskey itself. You're paying probably $80 to $100 for the whiskey in this case, and then $50 to experience it, to pull the lever, to get that satisfaction, to write your name on things, to put stickers in it, to sign the guest book. All of those things is what you're really paying for versus just the whiskey. So calling it $150 isn't entirely fair. There is an experience behind it. Now, with Elijah Craig, and when we went, I did choose the Elijah Craig as what I wanted to fill ourselves. That one works a little differently. You're paying for the tour ticket price up front, which I believe was $40 a person. And then if you choose to buy a bottle and fill it yourself, then it's another 80 to even 150, depending on which one you choose. Now, this experience was really cool. We got to sit in a room and taste through all of the blends that they had available on that day. One Elijah Craig, one Larceny Barrel Proof, one Bernheim Barrel Proof, and then a Select Stock. Now, the Select Stock is the expensive one. That is 150 compared to Elijah Craig's 80. So you get a big price difference there. And the Select Stock could be just anything. You know, those things are typically experimental. When we went, it was predominantly a malted barley whiskey. I think it was 51% malted barley. And for the up price, it was good, but for the up price at 150, didn't sit with us well. But we have seen some other impressive select stocks, either due to elevated ages, like a 13-year select stock Heaven Hill, different finishes, something that sticks out. Maybe on any given day, I would pick the select stock over what I did choose, which was the Elijah Craig. But this Elijah Craig to me comes off as like an elevated version of the single barrels. If you've had some good 8-year, 9-year single barrels, to me, this hits above that to the point that I really scored it high and even put it in our best of the year tournament. So that's how impressed I was with the quality of this blend. And for those that are interested, this was batch Y723, which means it's the You Do You experience. July 2023 is when this blend was from. We did this experience in October, and they were telling us that they were getting towards the end of this blend. So essentially, they have these blends for around a 3-month period of time, and then they switch to a new blend. Then, when it comes to the blend your own bottle experiences, look all around the country there. Once again, you might be paying for the ticket price. Maybe it's $20, maybe it's $30 to sit down, get all of those pours, get your beakers, blend it all together, go through that experience. It could take an hour. In some cases, it took me longer because I get really competitive about this. But then after you're done with the mixture, you say, hey, this is what I want. These are the proportions. And then they'll give you the prices from there, which I have seen range from $60 to $100 as well. So when it comes to the whiskey itself in all of these experiences, just notice that I'm talking about prices between $60 to $100 when we're talking about the whiskey, regardless if it is Elijah Craig, Michter's, or these blend your own experiences. Would always recommend, though, that you do this with family and friends. You are paying for the memories just as much as you're paying for the whiskey. And even though I stated at the front end of this that I really wasn't a fan on its own when I sit down with them, with that Michter's bourbon, with that Michter's rye, it is still a bottle that I pull out when I'm hanging out with Kelsey and Darrell, and we're just chatting and we want to bring up how great our whiskey trips have been. We will pull those bottles out to remember them and reminisce. That's more important than any scores I can highlight. So that concludes thoughts on the fill your own bottle experiences, things to expect, how much they cost. If you've got any other questions, let me know in the comments. We'll get back to you. And if you've done these type of experiences in your states outside of Kentucky or even within Kentucky, let us know some other brands that are doing this that I didn't mention. That way, when people come back to the comments, they can see those experiences as well if they happen to live by something that you're highlighting. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. We'll catch you on the next Tuesday discussion. Goodbye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello